So, who can tell me a story about buyer's remorse that they've had? Anything in particular come to mind? You're laughing pretty good over there.
It's an ongoing battle.
Ongoing battle.
It's been 2 years.
Oh, really? Well, then that sounds like it's a major one.
Cracks in the ceiling,
Okay.
structural, it's gotta be up in the trusses. And it's cracking, trusses are running this way and it's cracking this way.
So now, did you originally build, or was that a purchase you made?
It's a
This
purchase.
is probably right when there, when it was still stick.
Sure.
And choose the
Okay.
colors and counters and all that they wanted.
So that's a heck of a lot worse than a bad cup of coffee you maybe got this morning, to say the least. Well, a great way to avoid buyer's remorse, and actually number one reason why Ian is standing here, is when it comes to construction, you can never plan enough, it seems. The number of months that we invest into planning new homes can be pretty substantial. I mean, what would you say an average is, Ian?
I would say at least 3 months upward to a more complicated project. Getting the ground running where you have everything solidified going into it. I mean, yeah, you could do 4 to 6 just to get everything where it needs to be. It makes our job easier. It's going to hone your budget in, and ultimately the project is going to be much more successful on the planning end.
And really, for any builder, without a great set of drawings up front and a good planning process, it's almost not even fair to say, okay, go put this together. Because then a bunch of assumptions are being made at the end of the day. And as soon as we start making assumptions in our lives, the next thing you know, we don't know what's going on after a while. So the 3 months plus that we typically spend, it's all trying to avoid those assumptions. Now, are we still going to have some at the end of the day? Absolutely. Is there such a thing as a perfect house or a perfect structure of any sort? Not at all. The first thing I'll tell you right now is that that would be a complete lie for me to sit and say that to you today. And that's really where, when selecting a builder, a lot of it comes down to the relationship as well. If you're extremely comfortable with somebody and you feel like you can invest that amount of time with that person, because it is a long process again, then they're probably a good choice for you. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we have a lot of reputable builders in our area. We're fortunate. The Midwest is filled with great craftsmen. A lot of the other parts of our country, they don't have that ability. So if you really can trust that individual, they're most likely going to do a great job for you, as long as you're also giving them the amount of time needed to do the planning up front. If you want to cut into some of the initial stages that you work in, Ian.
Sure. You know, as John has clarified, when it comes to the planning of the architectural design, your print, the print set, how much goes into that, the selections, to John's point about a perfect plan, a perfect design, I think history, architects and engineers will only say that the Eiffel Tower was the only perfect blueprint ever constructed ever. They've gone over it over and over, so I mean, it's only one ever that's ever been done. But the planning can get you to the point where you want to be and ultimately make the project as successful as it possibly can be. One of the beginning stages that we look at too is, and back to what John said, there are a lot of reputable builders. I know that we're here talking to you tonight about builders and selecting a builder and home building and the whole process that goes into that. We can talk about ourselves, we can talk about our system and what we do and how we integrate our project delivery system, getting everybody on board right away so that everybody's on the same page. You know, you can have us, and I'm not knocking the speculative market, but obviously they're picking everything out, they're doing it. Their team is who they select without you being involved. So sometimes that can have its disadvantages, so to speak. You know, some of the things that we do, obviously, this is just a print, but if I pull some of this off here, you know, we like to. One of the main contributors to everything that's going to go on with your design, you know, everybody has an idea of, you know, what they want. We should have this. But ultimately, you know, we go into site development, and we're gonna take, and initially when a customer comes to me, I'll sit down with them, and we'll start going through, where do you want to be located? you know, do you have any places in mind? What different things about that site are gonna contribute to positives or negatives about your inevitable build on that site? So that's one of the main pieces of the puzzle that we go with right away. And a lot of that upfront, what we like to do, I mean, there's a lot of different build processes. We have more of a design build process than an architect build, and all that means is we're doing our design in-house as opposed to you going out of house and then bringing a builder in after the fact. Some of it's cost related. We also work with a lot of architects from outside, and then at that point in time, I'll work as a liaison just so that we're all coordinating things together correctly so that one hand isn't doing one thing, and then when it comes to actually the constructing of the project, there's a disconnect. So in that aspect, I'll work as a liaison. But some of the things that, and one of the things I guess I would have to say that your builder should be able to do some upfront uncovery for you so that you're making the correct decision. You're gonna want a partner in your build process, no matter what you're building. I mean, you're gonna want a partner in anything that you do. I mean, whether you're banking or, I mean, but this is a big decision. So one of the things that we like to do is we like to do a code review, do a site review, get a preliminary site plan. We might go ahead, I mean, this is obviously a fuller set of a smaller house, but obviously we'll get something on there. We'll do some uncovery with even a civil engineer that might have the existing development on their computer and understand really what's going on there. Make sure that you're not going into a situation where the soil's bad. There's fill on the property, and you're going to end up paying, you know, 3 times the amount to go in and actually put the foundation in. It's things like that you're really going to want to know. Those are things that you're going to want to pre-select and get that person on board right away. It's things like that we do all the time for different customers to make sure that they're making the right decision. Because ultimately, I don't really want, just like a plumber or electrician really doesn't want to come in after somebody else messed something up. You'd rather be there in the beginning, even though it happens all the time. We'd rather be there in the beginning. And for us, the cost of doing this is the cost of doing business for us, and we like to provide that. It's something too that, as you look at a reputable builder, they're going to have these pieces in place. Deleers has been around for 69 years, so ultimately we've gone through a lot of different processes that didn't make sense to come up with a process that really does. So ultimately, you know, this is where the print set goes. This is a basic print set we brought along, but we also do have capabilities that we go and we give you a 3D model. We can also work the site plan. We can put that house, whatever that configuration your house is, we can put it into a 3D model. We can work with the civil engineers that have 3D AutoCAD capabilities, and basically we can put your house on your lot the way you want it, and ultimately that upfront design, that pre-engineering is cost savings. Sometimes people might look at it, well, you know, I can just go pick out a plan out of a book and, you know, we can put it on a lot. And sometimes you might be successful doing that. I'm not, you know, people do it all the time and it works for them. And maybe they're okay with the small factor of problems that come out of that. But if you really want a solid project, you really want it to be a successful project over a long haul, you're making a big investment, do the upfront uncovery, do the upfront engineering, and you should have a partner that actually wants to do that for you. Some of the capabilities too, I mean, we've done a great deal of investment into our software, into our project management team, into all the different processes that we have in order to be able to do 3D. Now this is just a quick 3D shot. We do interior 3Ds. It also helps with our structural engineering. So if you go in, you're really understanding what the space is, you understand what your soffit heights are, you understand what your room looks like, it can size your materials, it can do all these things up front. We can go ahead and we can put this tile on your floor in your house with your cabinets and see what it's going to look like and make sure that it's going to work. Sometimes you get a 3-page print out of a book, or nothing against. I mean, we work with lumber suppliers all the time, but if you get a 3-page print from the lumber supplier, I mean, it'll have as much information as you can get on there. So one of the things I guess I would advocate, the upfront costs that you're putting into the situation is going to pay a lot at the end. Are we going to go through, are we talking about budgeting and things like that, and how much time do we want to facilitate with our part before we turn it over?
Why don't you just cover your end, and then what we'll do is consult with you,
Okay.
and if we miss something, we can kind of cover it as a team.
Okay.
That sound good?
You know, one of the things about budgeting and how you go about it, the more information, I think it's basically common knowledge. The finer honed the situation can be, the better off budgetary wise you're gonna be. We don't like to do things where there are surprises at the end. I tell customers all the time that I don't like having uncomfortable conversations. And what that means to me is sitting down and saying, oh, well, how come I missed this and now I gotta add $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 onto the budget because this was missed. That's not a conversation I like to have.
A big part of budget that often goes missed is the communication of it. What does budget mean to everybody? Does your budget include appliances if you are doing a kitchen or a new build? Does it include any of your hanging light fixtures? Your recessed cans like you see in here, typically that'll be inclusive of a builder. However, the decorative fixtures, most often builders do not include those into the budget. The same with landscaping, and you know the list can go on depending on who you're working with and how they choose to do that. So making sure that we're having those conversations right up front in the process versus, like Ian said, somewhere down the line having to come back and, oh, by the way, here's an extra $15,000 that you weren't really planning for. And on top of it, really, it's hard to do this preliminary work even without somewhat of a budget in mind. Because, as everyone knows, I mean, we live in an option society nowadays, so it can go from mild to wild in a quick hurry, and Ian's mind can drift really fast.
I'm actually fairly conservative when it comes to design because, yeah, and like John said, an idea of the budget and a realistic idea of the budget, because we go through selection process, and when you're talking about square footage and you're talking about large square footages, your increase just a little bit can really, in some areas, and that's where having a realistic partner in the situation and an honest partner really helps. What John really touched on early on is who you feel comfortable with, because there's a lot of different people who will give you a broad range of ideas when it comes to cost, but you're really going to have to look at what does your time mean to you, what is not only your budget outcome, but what is your outcome for yourself. I mean, your happiness with it. What does that all look like to you at the end of your project? It should be more, and I'm not advocating for large expenditures, I'm just advocating for look at the whole entity of the process from the start to finish and what that means to you and how much you want to deal with problems at the end of it. So.
Save questions till after.
I mean, I think it's something for you now specifically, what you just covered.
Does anybody have anything specific right now? Anything about how the process starts, or is anybody in a situation where they're starting a process or trying to fix a problem or just thinking?
We're just starting, trying
Yeah.
to decide what builder we're going to be working with.
Sure.
We happen to be up in York County,
Mhm.
so, you know, it's like, part of me says, well, should we be taking and using a home builder up there? Because if it's somebody in Green Bay, the cost is automatically gonna be so much more because the workers and the builder is in Green Bay, an hour away. So does that figure into it? Or if I know there's a really great builder that I'd like to work with in Green Bay, is it gonna add $20,000 more to the project?
No, it won't. I mean, we actually are in Door County all the time, and really right up to the very tip of it, actually. The reality of it is, for us, it's really a cost of doing business. If we want to gain that market share, we know we still have to be competitive with everybody up there, and that goes for every other builder. And we travel the entire state of Wisconsin. We go into Upper Michigan. We'll hit the eastern part of Minnesota a little bit. So traveling is just the norm for us at the end of the day.
For the builders that are going up there, contractors that they.
Absolutely.
And we get that exact question. I probably get it 3-4 times a week. Just because people want to understand, because they might be comfortable. I'll be having a conversation, and, you know, they're down south or something like that, and they're concerned with that. Yeah, we travel real well, and there are even times, and Door County sometimes will be like this, where they really, they're a tight-knit group, and they want to, you know, keep that up there. But one of the things too that we've come across is you want to find a builder that's going to be efficient, on schedule, on time, doing the things when you want to do them. So, but back to the original question, yeah, Door County is very much well within a range of a Green Bay area builder. And not a $20,000 expenditure.
You know, I have a lot of real basic questions here, I don't know if everybody else is, you know,
Oh.
got a house half done here, but,
Yeah.
I mean, just even the relationship between, you know, what the difference between a builder, a designer, an architect, I mean, who's gonna be doing what at what phase?
Sure.
You know, do I have to be comfortable with an architect before I be comfortable with the home builder? Is that usually an architect with the home builder?
Well, and that's a really good question too. And there are different processes. There are certain individuals that like to go to an architect, go through the process with the architect. The architect then also is an outside resource that is going to start obviously billing you for his architectural fees, and then they'll bring some